colder today. I guess I'm just going to point out some things before we start. One is Teams. We have a Teams a team on MS Teams called Research Methods, and a lot of people have not signed up still. If you send me some question, I'm going to ask you to post the question on Teams so that when I answer, everybody can see the answer, right? Or you ask questions in the lecture. But anyways, there are some questions and answers on the Teams. So if you haven't signed up for that, please, and you want to see the answers to the questions, you can go and sign up for that, right? It's called COM 4037 Research Methods. And there's a link to it on Moodle. Any questions about coursework 1, which is due in a week? Has anybody started? Oh, that's weird. Okay. I'm anticipating there will be a bunch of questions 5 minutes before the deadline. If you send me an email within 24 hours of the deadline, don't count on me answering that email. Like, I might get a volume of 100 emails within 24 hours of the deadline, the day of the deadline. I won't be able to answer them all. So just to warn you. And I know a lot of people like to ask questions about the courseworks after the deadline. But a better time to ask questions about the courseworks is before the deadline. I get a lot of questions after the deadline, and I always think, why didn't you ask this question before the deadline? That's the truth with all courseworks and all tests. I get a lot of email like after a test instead of before. And I think, it's too late now! So today's workshop is on data visualization, as you might have guessed. This is closely related to coursework 2, which you can actually preview on Moodle if you want. You can preview that. Has anybody here ever used Microsoft Excel before? Okay, that's good. So the instructions are simple, but the exercise is not simple. It's similar to, like, in some ways, I guess it's similar to the extracting the essentials. It's a kind of non-trivial exercise, actually. So it takes some work. So step 1 is form groups. That should not be too shocking for anybody. Step 2 is to find an interesting data set. So you can actually search for interesting data sets, like you can Google like interesting data set and see what pops up. And that's what I did. And I found a link to a web page that has some interesting data sets. If you don't feel like doing that part, you can just use the data set that I provide. I provide a data set because the reason I do that is because you can spend an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours just looking for interesting data sets. That's possible. So you can look for an interesting data set, but if you find yourself getting totally lost just finding an interesting data set, you can use this one. Then we're going to use Microsoft Excel. Everybody's used Excel before. However, probably you've noticed Excel has 1 billion features. something like that. It's got a lot of features. So we're going to use some features of Excel that we've never used before. Probably you've already used pie charts, bar charts, and line charts, right? You've all used those already. So you're going to create an advanced chart using Excel with a color legend. So you can create, for example, a tree map, a sunburst chart, a scatter plot, or an area chart. What you're not allowed to create is a bar chart, line chart, pie chart, or bubble chart, or combinations thereof, right? Because a high school student can create those things, or even, well, a junior high school student, a child can create those things. We want to evolve to adults. So create something more advanced. You can look at the other ones too. There are other options, but those are some of the options. And then you start a Google Doc, surprise, surprise. And in the Google Doc, you put the URL of the data that you have chosen for this exercise, a description of the data, like the number of rows and columns, maybe a little screenshot. And then take a screenshot of your advanced chart and supply an observation. What does your chart show? And then share the Google Doc with myself. It looks like a simple exercise, doesn't it? It looks like it, but it's not as simple as you think it is, actually. There are kind of two steps that are kind of not that simple, actually. One is this part, step 3, create a tree map, sunburst chart, scatter plot, or area chart. That's non-trivial. It's not that difficult, but if you've never done it before, you don't know how to do it, then it's going to take some time to figure it out. And then the other kind of tricky part is, what does your chart show? Try to make an observation about the data. Say, oh, from this chart, I can see that China is the best country in the world by far, or something like. You know, you have to make some observation, right? Any questions about this exercise? Okay, so let's form groups then. We'll try to help you guys form some groups. I think let's do 5 maybe a group. What do you think? Yeah, sounds good. I think this first row can be a group. Good. Yeah. I think we can U4 can be a group. Everyone knows how to find coursework 1, right? Coursework 1 full specification. Surprise, surprise, it's a Google Doc. So the deadline is 10th of March at 1500 hours, right? That's in 1 week. You guys are just discovering that now? Like that the deadline is 10th of March? Okay. There it is. So there, yeah, 1 week. Good. Has anybody ever created these charts before? Anybody? Nice. Which one did you create?
I didn't create tree map, but I have others.
Have you done like anything more advanced than the bar charts or line?
Some
You did a sunburst chart? Nice. Very good. Anybody else create something? What did you create before? A scatter plot? Yeah, scatter plot. I was thinking about excluding those. But please don't everybody make a scatter plot, like not everybody. Anybody ever made a tree map before? Or an area chart? Area chart's not that difficult. Probably the tree map, Gesundheit, might be the most difficult. It's colder today, right? This is my first time blowing my nose into the microphone. By the way, you don't have to use this link either. You could just put interesting data set instead of Google. And you'll get lots of, you'll get this, probably this link as well. That's all I did. I just Googled interesting data set and that's it. And then I got this stuff. This is basically coursework 2. Coursework 2 is kind of, is very similar to this. You submit the video and then in the description of the video, you submit the details about the paper that you in the description. Last year. It's that. Yeah, there it is. Shorts. You can wear those like the trousers with the You guys want an interesting data set?
Trying to.
Yeah, that part, you have to give yourself a time limit or something, because you can spend hours on that, or days. To find an interesting data set, you can also think of something that you're interested in. You might be interested in something. So you could just look for a data set on a topic that you find interesting. Okay, there are the charts. So no bar charts. There's a tree map of the sunburst. No line charts, but that's an area chart. You can use area charts. No bar charts. No pie charts. And no bubble charts. You're welcome to try out maps too. I've never tried Excel maps before. I don't know what a pivot chart is actually. Questions?
Before the process of visualization, should we do some processing to the data?
If you want to create something like a tree map, you'll have to do some pre-processing, like putting the data into groups, for example. So yes, you can do some pre-processing. You don't have to. The tree map, for example, requires a hierarchy. I think the sunburst chart requires a hierarchy too.
So each group just select one chart to visualize.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so in that case you have to create some hierarchy. Yeah, okay. So in that case you could group the data by type of animal, right? Cattle, sheep, whatever. You know, and then the tree map will look much better as soon as you create a hierarchy. I would call it, yeah, you could call it clustering, but probably just categorization is more accurate. Yeah. Clustering, you're usually measuring a distance between things, and then saying, okay, if the distance isn't too far, then you do that. Yeah. So the most common mistake that people make with tree maps is they don't include a hierarchy. That's the most common mistake. And you can create a hierarchy out of any data set, doesn't matter. what that data set is. So imagine you want to visualize people, right? How do you create a hierarchy out of people if you have a data set, just a list of students? Well, you have students at the top, male, female, for example. Doesn't have to be like that. And then you subdivide that into age group, like ages, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30. That's a hierarchy, right? So you just form groups, subgroups within the data to form a hierarchy. So for the animals data set, the natural grouping there is to form the different animal groups, like cows, sheep, lamb, chicken, right? Because if you try to create a tree map or a sunburst chart without a hierarchy, it's not going to look good. Can anybody think of a way to test if their image looks good or not, or what a good-looking image might look like? So one possibility is to just do tree map in Excel, right? And then click on images and see, okay, what does a good tree map look like? So these are all tree maps in Excel. This one's clearly a hierarchy. Oh, okay. But anyways, that's one way to compare, what you're doing with somebody else's to see, okay, and there's a sunburst chart. Okay, actually this one's not very good because it doesn't have a hierarchy. But you can see some good examples. This one looks interesting. Yeah, that one's probably a good one. But you can see which ones have hierarchies and which ones don't. Like that one does not look like it has a hierarchy, so that's not a good one. But this one clearly has a hierarchy.
这些都是我们身体，就是不能这也是你想，这也是你然后这也是阳这两个东西，我们就是把它有的是阳的是阳，有的是阴出然后画个就种类不一样，这个是你 然后这个就是后期的稿子，然后这个是就插入一遍，然后把它的就是流的全部加进来，就统一成就是它这个加速模式是三个 keyboard is keyboard is categorized，反正你现在不是本质，这个以前就是别的玩意儿，那会儿 自动生成。这个就生成的是代表什么意思？
Has anybody seen Disk Inventory X before? No? This is sort of like the ultimate tree map example. So this is a tree map application, and basically what it's showing is a map of your disk, you know, your hard drive or your disk. If you've ever wondered, like, oh, why is all the disk space on my computer run out? This program shows you where all your disk space is being used. So in this case, every rectangle is mapped to a file on the disk, and the size of the rectangle reflects the file size. So if I want to know where my disk space is being used, I would look at the big rectangles, right? So these big rectangles are all applications. The biggest one is iMovie. You can see down here, it's iMovie. Microsoft Word takes up a lot of disk space, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Acrobat Reader, OneDrive. And they're categorized right into different folders. This is very easy on a file system, right? Because every program and file is in a folder. So if you're in the same folder, you get the same color. And here's another one. So that's a very big, if I want to free up some disk space, I can delete these files here. And I can delete these too. And then you can also see like these tiny files. Oh, these are all PDFs. I know these ones. Those are PDFs and MPEGs. And they're all in my research folder right here. Here's a big one. Okay, that's a data set actually. And that's another iMovie file. So these are all video files here. So it's a great way to get a picture of your disk. Oh, and there's a nice color legend here. Oh, so all the purple ones are MPEG files, right? All the red ones are QuickTime movies. There's the applications. These are the PDF files, regular documents, data, and so on. So this is sort of like the best tree map application out there. This is a free program, by the way. So you can just download it and use it if you want to see what your disk looks like. I just downloaded it just now during the lecture and read it.
跟做成功的这个有一个最后的一个反例，现在